Well, hello again. Pastor Ray Barnett here with you. Glad that you could be with me here on the Oasis. As always, I wish you a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening, depending on what time you're watching this broadcast. Today is January the 31st, the end of the year 2021. And I really do want to wish all of you that you have a very happy and blessed new year. I told you yesterday that for me, at least, one of the advantages of the end of a year, and then of course the beginning of a year, is that it gives us a kind of a definitive ending and bit of a start in this process that we know as time. We are able to mark the end of a year, the beginning of a new year, and ordinarily this is the time that people set new goals, have new ambitions. So many people that I have not only talked to, but a few that I've read are all saying pretty much the same thing. 2021 rather, was a very rough year, and it was for many, many people, no doubt for you as well. And I think that coming to an end of a year and the beginning of another year is a great opportunity to put away the past. You know, there really isn't anything you can do at the end of a day. Always keep this in mind. What is done and cannot be undone. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, there's really nothing we can do about the past. So with respect to this channel, right, the Oasis is God's answers for anxiety and depression, and my ambition is twofold. Number one, to give you teachings that are quality, that will help you in time to permanently overcome anxiety and depression, and it can be done. It can be done. And then secondly, hopefully to provide you, thus the name the Oasis, some type of a little bit of respite from a day that's filled with stress, problem solving, and etc. You know, just a weariness. Yesterday was January 30th, and I was sharing with you a little illustration from chess. So I just have one thing that I want to bring to you today. I have a few chess pieces here with me. This one here is the king. This one here is the queen. And for those of you who do play the game, then you have bishops, and we have knights, and then we have the rook. I have two of these on each side of the board. And then a whole bunch of pawns. Now, most of us are this. It's not that we're insignificant, it's just that we don't reach the status of being a king, or perhaps in your case, just to make this fair, we don't reach the status of being a queen. Most of us are never going to be famous. Most of us are never going to be well known in this world. And then there's a few of us who have positions in the church, perhaps more known and well known to people via my radio broadcast and the live streaming that we do, and the television ministry that I once had for 10 or more years. So perhaps I'm a little more well known than some of you. But you know, basically, whether you're somehow serving in maybe the military, and perhaps you have some type of prestigious position in life, or just that you've accumulated things and you have a beautiful home and a lot of let's say a lot of nice toys, the great majority of us are right there. But regardless of who you are, at the end of the game, one by one, they all go back in the box. Solomon was, without a doubt, in one manner of speaking, the wisest man who ever lived, Jesus being the exception. Yet he did many things that were anything but wise. And he writes about that in the, let me grab my Bible here, he writes about that in a book known as Ecclesiastes. Now, Ecclesiastes is Greek, and it means the preacher. And so he writes in Ecclesiastes in 12 chapters of all the things that he did. He sought for wisdom. He sought how to be a fool. He sought for satisfaction in women. He sought for satisfaction in wine. He sought for satisfaction in all the things that he had accumulated. And he spent a lifetime, we could say it this way, he spent a lifetime as both a wise man and a fool. And he writes that in his book, The Preacher, Ecclesiastes. But at the end, in the 12th chapter, he writes these words, "And moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yea, he gave good heed and sought out and set in order many proverbs." Book of Proverbs. The preacher sought to find out acceptable words, and that which was written was upright, even words of truth. The words of the wise are as goads, and as nails fastened by the masters of assemblies, which are given from one shepherd. And further, by these, my son, be admonished. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. Before I read these last two verses, let me just say that often throughout the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon will repeat these words: vanity of vanity, vanity of vanities, all is vanity for the man under the sun, our time on earth. Because he, being a king, which is what he was, and all the other people that he knew, at the end of the game, she had 1,000 wives, people he knew, the people he used to build the temple, they all went back in the box. So he writes these words of wisdom, which, even though our subject, of course, is nervous symptoms and nervous disorders and so on, the wisdom still has application for you as well as for me. And here it is, the last two verses of the book of Ecclesiastes. So he says, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil." That's how, arguably, the wisest man, other than Jesus, the wisest man that ever lived, concluded his life. After all the wisdom and then after all the foolishness, and he did some very heinous things as well. He says, "This is what I've found out." And I'll just use my little metaphor. At the end of the game, they all go back in the box. You know, if graves were not marked, and they usually aren't, with the status of a person, some are, built in great mausoleums, such as like Grant's tomb, and others, many others. And we recognize that these people had some kind of status in life. But as the winds of time blow on the sands of this earth. At the end, most of us don't know much about these people. And in most cases, we don't know anything about these people. But you may say, Pastor, this is a study that we do, a broadcast that you do every day on anxiety and depression. And how is this to be a help for me? Well, my answer is this. I learned a long time ago how to downsize my fears. Psalm 34, "For I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and delivered me from all my fears." How does this apply to you? Well, again, the answer is this. You could take all of your fears, for that matter, all your depressions, but you could take all of your fears and downsize them to just one. And that's saying quite a bit. But what is that one fear that must remain? In the book of Proverbs, most of the Proverbs in the Bible were written by Solomon, not all, but most. And often the Bible will talk about the fear of the Lord. That doesn't mean when we come into relationship with Jesus Christ that we continue in a type of an anxiety. Because the Bible says God is love. And he that loves knows God. He that does not love does not know God. And so it becomes very simple. I learned, again, a long time ago, how to downsize all my fears to just one. The fear of the Lord. And again, the word fear here means more of a type of a reverence and an awe of who God is and what God can do. And to be truthful with you, I am a preacher, whether it's a good or a bad thing. God can do whatever he wants. But he does want you to be free from all your fears, all your anxieties, and all your depressions and so on. So this year, 2022, starts tomorrow. Why don't you downsize all of your fears to just one? Jesus taught us the two greatest commandments in the entire book, 31,102 verses in the Bible. There's only two commandments that sum all of it up. And here they are. Love God with all of the heart, all of the soul, all of the mind, and all of the strength. And he said the second is like it. Love one another. These are the two great commandments upon which every other commandment hangs, and that's what Jesus taught. Upon these two commandments, Jesus said, hangs all of the law and all of the prophets. So you should have a resolution this year that you're going to downsize all of your fears to just one. The fear of the Lord, which again means reverence and awe and everything that we could relate to those two words. And then with that, fear of the Lord gets down to two basic actions. Loving God with all of the heart, all of the strength, all of the mind, all that you have. And then transferring that love to one another. And let me add this. In 1 John chapter 4, the Bible tells us there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear has torment, and he that fears is not made perfect in love. You see, if I were to appear only one time on this broadcast and say you could sum up how you overcome anxiety and depression, it would be in the word love. It's everything that God is. Well, I mean, it is the primary character of God. Now, God has many aspects of his nature, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful, almighty. But it's all summed up in the fact that he loves his creation and the fact that he loves you. When you fully absorb that truth, that he loves you, and you really believe it, you really, really know it, all your other fears just, well, if it's not instantaneous, all of your fears, one by one, they just start to melt away. It may seem in your mind an oversimplification, but trust me, many, many years I've been doing this, and that's what it all boils down to. Knowing that God loves you, and then you transfer that love, that concern, that compassion for other people. 1 Peter chapter 5, it says this, verse 7, casting all of your anxieties on him because he cares for you. So with this, I like to just take the time to truly hope and pray that all of you have a very blessed new year, very prosperous new year, but specifically with reference that at the end of next year, 2022, on this date, January 31st, you would be able to say, I sought the Lord in the year 2022, and he heard me and delivered me from all my fears. Whatever else all your goals may be, and you should have goals, and goals are good. I have many goals. But the chiefest and most important, the one that's indispensable, is to love God, all of the heart, all of the soul, all of the mind, and all of the strength. That's my prayer for you today as we end this old year and as we begin this new year. Let that be your chief resolution this year. You're going to seek after God with everything that you have. And in return, you will experience in manifest ways deliverance from all your fears, all your depressions, and everything else that's been hurting you. So let me pray for you today. Father, I pray for all my friends who watch daily or watch very frequently. And in this world of turmoil and chaos and evil, deliver them from all their fears. Deliver them from all their anxieties and depressions. And let them be able to say, I have known whom I have believed, and I am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I have committed unto him against that day. That's my prayer for you. That's my hope for you. You keep in mind at the end of the game, no matter who people were in this life or are in this life, at the end of the game, they all go back in the box, and only what's done. Or as the saying goes, let me give you the whole saying, only one life 'twill soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. So I wish you a very blessed and happy new year. And once again, we will start in fresh with our teachings here on the Oasis. Until then, I ask that God richly, richly bless you with peace and deliverance from all your fears. God bless, and I'll see you next year. Until then, take care.